Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here once again with the proud Dawi. We're going to be taking on the Vampire Counts. Just a quick spoiler alert for those of you guys who don't like watching one-sided battles. Today is a collection of quick one-sided battles, but I will caveat that with this. If you don't like Heinrich Kemmler getting blown up by a gyro bomber, ALBERIC smashing Famir in the face from horseback, or a beautiful Van Geist Revenge cast, then I don't really know how to entertain you. Yeah, these aren't going to be the most high-level replays, but they certainly will be entertaining. So we've got Ungrim here, front line of Rangers, including the Bugman's Rangers, so Brews and Bombs here. We've got the Gyro Bomber, plenty of Miners with Blasting Charges, Dwarf Warriors, 3 units of Slayers, including the Dragonback Slayers. For my opponent, he's got a Mortis Engine here, Black Coach, Heinrich Kemmler on foot here, a nice mix of Zombies, Graveguard, Spears. I don't know what the Spears are about against the Dwarves, but he's also got a couple units of Blood Knights as well. And right off the bat, you can see I move nice and close and shoot with the Gyro Bomber. Now, the Gyro Bomber does have a little bit of a spread on its main cannon, so you want to try and get as close as possible. Maybe not like right up next to it, but definitely within at least half range to get the most value out of that main gun there. And you can see already doing some excellent damage. Bugman's Rangers and the regular Rangers all going to open up here and just do an absolute number on this Mortis Engine. Yeah, my opponent definitely needed to keep this Mortis Engine back out of range of these ranged units. Even then, just not having any tools whatsoever to shut down this Gyro Bomber means that this replay is pretty much decided from the start. You can see the Mortis Engine goes down there, and now here comes the part we've all been waiting for. So Kemmler here on horseback, just getting absolutely exploded by this Gyrocopter's main gun here. He's going to take a lot of damage, and especially because he can't get staggered because he's on horseback, like he can't get knocked to the ground, he will take the full brunt of that damage for the most part. Meanwhile, Blood Knights, the rest of these units charging in, the Black Coach as well, going to try and run over Ungrim here, but yeah, definitely doesn't want to stay and fight Ungrim for too long. But nonetheless, Kemmler just getting absolutely pounded by the Gyro Bomber here. Yeah, pretty much this is what we all came to see, so I'm going to keep the focus here for a moment as Kemmler continues to gallop away. We're going to go ahead and move closer there. Blasting charges being thrown. We're pulling back some of the Rangers. Some of the Bugman's Rangers did get caught by Blood Knights on a charge. They took some pretty significant damage, but honestly, they can regenerate some of that back, and they'll be okay at the end of the day. Blood Knights then charging into Miners. We're going to follow up with these Slayers here. Likewise, the Dragonback Slayer is going to go into these Blood Knights here. And Ungrim just sort of holding a center pocket here together. The Black Coach did end up not disengaging from him. Obviously a huge mistake. It's already taken some pretty significant damage, and yeah, each of those hits is just going to be an absolute chunk. Since Kemmler is pretty much done for, we're just about ready to start a proper bombing run. Come on, Kemmler. Hasn't even been able to get Krell out yet. And he is done for. Oh, there's Krell. So Krell gets out just before Kemmler goes down. So at least he gets some value in that way, but obviously losing your Lord for the Vampire Counts, and he's already lost the Mortis Engine, Kemmler, that's just so much value already. Now the proper bombing run starts. We're going to just bomb out these Graveguard and Skeleton Warriors here. Absolutely explode them, and I definitely think that Dwarves are pretty good. They might be the one faction that the Vampire Counts have just a straight up bad matchup against. I might have to kind of play around with it a little bit more and see. Obviously, you know, like even just some Fellbats or something like a Terrorgeist, obviously, or just some kind of flying units, anything that the Vampire Counts have access to, would be able to take down the Gyro Bomber. Only has 6 melee defense, so even that 100 armor, I mean, a unit of bats will be able to do quite a bit of damage. But in terms of the end replay there, not a ton to talk about, honestly. Gyro Bomber racked up 3 XP chevrons, blowing up Kemmler, helping with the Mortis Engine, the Black Coach, various other units there. Still showing 0 kills, though. The Ranger is also doing some great work also. Bugman's Rangers, just such a good unit in this matchup. More or less immune to zombie summons. They do really good damage against a lot of high-value targets for the Vampire Counts. So, yeah. Dwarves, definitely a good matchup here. So, moving on to the next quick one. This time, going to be taking Bretonnia, as promised, against Norsca. So, yeah, I know, my opponent didn't bring a caster, but still, I'm taking Bretonnia against Norsca, which is potentially a pretty tough matchup, and we do have a relatively fun build here, so we'll kind of talk through my thought process on this. I do have the Beast Slayers of Baston here, We've also got some ranked up units of men-at-arms with polearms. The idea being that Norsca's not great against elite halberds. These guys aren't necessarily elite halberds, but they are halberds. I mean, they definitely have halberds. So we've also got some foot squires as well. The Holy Wardens just for some extra DPS in the front line. Plenty of peasants to soak bodies. Fire arrows, of course. Against Norsca, you're going to want to have some fire arrows. So we've got 1 fire, 1 pox. Spearmen in the back line, defenders of the fleur-de-lis, and then ALBERIC with his retinue of Grail Knights here, proudly displaying his trident. Oh man, glorious. Let's give you guys a nice shot of him there. Of course, he does have his item juicing up their bonus versus large even more, and their charge bonus as well, up to 84 charge bonus for those Grail Knights. Of course, a Lore of Life Damsel as well. For my opponent, he does have Throg, no caster though. Front line of Berserkers and regular Marauders. A couple of Famir with great weapons. Pretty obvious pick here. It's Miststalkers in the center. Maws of Savagery and Beasts of Tashnar. So despite it not having a caster, I mean, this is still potentially a pretty nasty build against Bretonnia. Just Famir with great weapons, hard counters so many of your units. Can be potentially pretty tough to take them down, but we'll see. I mean, obviously you guys know from the spoiler alert that this is going to go a certain way. But nonetheless, still should be interesting to see how it unfolds, right? Giant, nasty blob of peasants moving forward. We do, of course, have a Grail Relic. I actually don't take these as often as I used to. I pretty much always used to include them, but at this point, you don't always necessarily need your peasants to hang around. Mostly you just need them to die. So, yeah. I often don't take the Grail Relic, but because I had some more elite infantry this time, like these Beast Slayers, the Holy Wardens, figured it was worth the cost in case of Miststalkers, which my opponent gamely brought. You can see we're raining in some fire and pox arrows on those Berserkers, doing some great damage initially, generating excellent value from those cheap peasant archers. Defenders pulling away from those Famir out on the flanks, and for each of the Famir, I'm going to path in my one halberd on each, I should say. The men-at-arms out on the wings, rushing in to save their peasant brethren. They'll do okay. They're still going to get pounded out a little bit here, but Foot Squires kind of come in after the charge has been broken. The Foot Squires there doing a great job. The peasant mobs doing a great job breaking the charge of the Berserkers, so the Foot Squires can get in there. And here in the center, Beast Slayers plus Holy Wardens are going to be a tough nut to crack for those Miststalkers, especially with the Grail Relic providing immune to Psychology. Over here, this unit of men-at-arms did manage to get somewhat on these Famir warriors here. The Foot Squires just cut through those Berserkers who had taken a bunch of damage earlier. They're now going to recharge these Marauders here. Meanwhile, the Grail Knights and ALBERIC have come forward. Those Famir warriors fell back from that engagement. Then they came in to re-engage here, looking like they're not quite on a very good attack order. So we're going to go ahead and sweep up and around the flank. And here comes Uncle ALBERIC at the helm of his Grail Knights, preparing for the charge here, forming up. Maybe. Come on, guys. Here we go. Excellent. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. ALBERIC, lance out, leads the charge of these Grail Knights. They're going to absolutely wreck these Famir here. Looks like, decided to throw a rally in here just to make sure these men-at-arms stuck around. Over here, these Foot Squires did end up losing out, but traded very cost-efficiently with those Marauder Berserkers there. All the Peasant Archers still online as well, firing at those Maws of Savagery. Of course, the poison and fire damage, both very good here. Spearmen and polearms just sort of whittling away at these Famir out on the flanks here. They really just don't hold up without extra infantry support. So, yeah. At this point, the Miststalkers have been routed off in the center by the elite infantry. The Maws of Savagery really don't honestly have a great home. Throg has been caught out by the Grail Knights. He's done some pretty good damage to them. You can see they are dropping quite a few models here. But at the same time, he is taking quite a bit of damage as well. And the rest of his army has just been absolutely ransacked. You can see the balance of power already pretty one-sided here. Maws of Savagery with these supporting Spearmen at Arms especially. Of course, they are going to get that additional bonus versus large from Uncle ALBERIC once they get into range here. So they're up to 23 bonus versus large, actually hitting reasonably hard against those Maws of Savagery there. So yeah, and Throg, of course. My opponent chooses to admit defeat there, so another nice quick one. Fun build for myself. I don't know if this is necessarily super optimal, but I do want to kind of tinker around with something like this a little bit more. I mean, obviously the double Hippogriff can work okay in this matchup, but, you know, just sort of exploring what other options are available here. I don't know if this is necessarily ideal, but certainly I think that there's something to, you know, just bringing men-at-arms with polearms, bringing the beast slayers, trying to, you know, go a little bit more infantry-heavy with Bretonnia, which feels sort of wrong, I know, filthy peasants, but in this matchup, you know, the halberds definitely do a number on the Familiar Warriors if you can get them in the right situation. So both these men-at-arms being super cost-effective in that way. Of course, the spearmen helping defend the back line. Peasants doing a great job just dying in droves, as always. Grail Knights 28 kills and an XP chevron. Excellent stuff. So moving on, last one for today. This time, we're going with the Vampire Coast against the Lizardmen. Yes, lizard trinkets, and we've even got Luther Harkon himself. And I decided, you know, since Vampire Coast is a little bit on the strong side, let's play them without using Lore of Vampires. So, I've actually brought Lore of Deeps here with this Vampire Fleet Captain. You've also got a Gunnery Wight, a Gallows Giant here, Black Spot, Zombie Deckhands mixed in with some polearms. Fellbats out on the side, some regular gunner mobs, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You can see Harkon flying up. He's immediately going to be shooting at the Skink Priest. Now, you might think shoot at the dinos first, but because Harkon has some caster-specific effects, I want to try and pick off this caster as quickly as possible. Not to mention he has a pretty small HP pool, so he'll be relatively easy to pick off. But, yeah. Meanwhile, Gallows Giant's going to move forward and start to open up on the Legion of Chakwa here. They are the only shielded Saurus, the rest of these Saurus all unshielded, which is a little bit risky against the Vampire Coast, but I guess he was just trying to optimize for cost. The Red Crest Chief up on the Stegodon is potentially extremely powerful in melee, but bringing big monsters against the Vampire Coast can be potentially really risky. You can see Gunny's gotten in range here. He's going to start to pick away at the Red Crest. He'll do a little bit of damage over time, nothing too crazy. But the Hornswaggle also going down now. I decide since, you know, all the infantry support's not around, there's no, like, Carnosaur to punish me or anything. There are some Cold One Riders, but they're way in the back line. I'm going to drop down with Harkon into melee here and just go after him, stacking Taunt and Hornswaggle, so that 0 melee defense, significantly debuffed in armor as well. And here it comes, as promised, a massive cast of the Vanguard's Revenge from the Fleet Captain here, right down this line of Saurus. Oh man, just going to be absolutely brutal, ripping apart the Legion of Chakwa and several other units of Saurus here, and allowing the vampires to then start to push forward. This Gallows Giant, of course, providing terror, and the burnt effect, the burnt leadership effect, will, of course, make them much more likely to tear out. You can see the Red Crest, despite the Harmonic Convergence and stacking on top of the Warrior's Crest at one point, still has taken a ton of damage from Harkon, although things have turned around, and likewise Harkon's taken quite a bit of damage from him. So I'm going to pull back up into the air and just evil cackle, use my pistol to try and take down him from the rest of the way. I also have the Terrorgeist Breaths, of course, which I haven't been using at all up until now. Drop the one there, and then, yeah, I'm still getting pelted a little bit by these 2 laser lizards, which isn't great, so decided to bring the Fleet Captain forward to start to deal with one of them. Gunny is going to start to, well, Gunny's just been, you know, reliably, continuously plinking away here. Haven't really talked much about the backline, but it's mostly been a saga of bats and zombies with various implements, including the Black Spot with their bayonets, holding off these Lizardmen cavalry, not really allowing them to get into any really impactful scenarios, certainly. The Gallows Giant is taking quite a bit of damage here, but likewise, we've got Fog of the Damned here to debuff melee attack, the Taunt again on the Red Crest. Harkon dives down, does a couple of really good attacks here. We're going to use the bats to keep the Legion of Chakwa from supporting, so that the Fleet Captain can try and finish off the Bastiladon here. Honestly, Fog of the Damned, I think, is a pretty underrated melee attack debuff. It lasts a pretty good amount of time, a nice leadership and melee attack debuff, so you can really use it to set up some tricky terror bombs, like with, especially with the Gallows Giant, you know, providing that burnt leadership effect. There's some other leadership effects that you have access to, like with the ethereal deck gunners. So you could potentially set up some tricky situations with that Fog of the Damned, and honestly, it's too bad that Lore of Vampires is just the best pick always, because Lore of Deeps is a ton of fun, and hopefully you guys will be seeing me, when I do use the Vampire Coast, using Lore of Deeps. Although if I'm in like a tournament or something, there's no guarantees about that. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really. It's such a cool Lore of Magic that Creative Assembly, you know, made from scratch, basically. But unfortunately, you just don't see it that often, because Lore of Vampires is just better in every single way, because healing, right? I mean, plus summons, cheap summons. You have a cheap melee attack buff. You know, you have a devastating wind spell. So yeah, Lore of Deeps just isn't... I mean, it has some good utility spells, some fun spells. The summon's more expensive, though. The wind spell, I mean, it's definitely easier to dodge than Wind of Death. Probably just as powerful, but still. I mean, Fog of the Damned is pretty good. Spiteful Shot is same with the wind spell. And the Kraken's pull, I haven't really tried too much. Might have to try that out to see what the damage is like on it. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick triple cast. If you're wondering why I did actually show these replays, normally I wouldn't show battles that are this quick. But being that I'm going to be out of town all week, probably by the time that you're seeing this particular video, I'm already out of town again on family vacation, so needed some content to fill while you guys were away, so I decided to wrangle up a few of the replays that I had saved but had decided not to cast. And, you know, we had some fun thematic builds this time, so hopefully, even though they weren't particularly close to competitive games, you were entertained or learned something, or both. Anyway, if you do like this sort of content, give it a like. If not, dislike. Feel free to subscribe. If you want to support me more personally, become a channel member or check out the Patreon page. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.